90% of individuals who make a New Year resolution to change their lives fail completely within the first month. Does your spiritual walk feel like a constant, exhausting battle where you keep falling into the exact same traps? Why does the version of you that prays on Sunday seem to vanish completely by Tuesday morning for years? So many people believe that faith is just a matter of isolated, emotional moments. They think it is enough to attend a service, listen to a powerful sermon, and then continue with a normal week. But there's a profound truth that will shake you to your very core if you truly look at it. Faith without daily habits is exactly like a plant without any deep roots in the ground. It easily endures the good weather, but the very first strong wind will completely knock it over. The raw truth that nobody wants to tell you is that your flesh will never simply surrender on its own. Your human nature requires intentional training. It needs consistent habits that wear it down, weaken it, and remove it from the throne it refuses to leave. This journey will uncover 6 specific, powerful habits to transform your daily walk. These are not abstract theories, but concrete, daily decisions that destroy the dominion of the flesh. They will awaken something deep inside you that has perhaps been sleeping for a very long time. The first habit is to surround yourself with godly people. Think about that specific group where there is always an excuse to avoid personal growth. A group where speaking about deep faith feels incredibly awkward and uncomfortable. A place where gossip is the most common language spoken among everyone. Where absolutely nobody challenges you to become a better version of yourself. And where, after every single meeting, you walk away feeling emptier than before you arrived. You do not need to declare those people your bitter enemies, but you must be entirely honest with yourself about what they are producing inside your soul. You are the spiritual average of the 5 people you spend the most time with every day. This is not self-help philosophy from a modern book. This is a spiritual law that the Bible confirms in every single story it tells. Even the wisest men in history fell because of the wrong companions. And the weakest individuals found incredible strength by surrounding themselves with the right ones. Proverbs chapter 13 verse 20 states it without any hesitation or filters. He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. This is not about judging the flaws of others around you. It is about recognizing that the people you live life with eventually become your internal voices. And over time, those voices will either protect your spirit or open the door wide for your flesh. The second habit is to pray before you act on emotion. When was the last time you acted purely out of anger, pride, or intense fear, only to regret it deeply later? You do not have to think very hard to remember a time like that. To you, emotion itself is not your enemy, because God is the one who gave it to you. But emotion without prayer is simply the flesh operating completely on autopilot. It is your oldest, unregenerate self taking control of your actions before you can even intervene. This is precisely where the vast majority of believers fail. They mistakenly believe that prayer is reserved only for moments of massive crisis. But praying before you act is exactly what separates a spiritual response from a carnal reaction. Peter sliced off the ear of Malchus because he acted blindly before he prayed. Jesus did not ask him for a long explanation of his behavior. He simply and quietly corrected the damage that Peter had caused. And that vivid image in the garden is worth more than 1,000 theological sermons. Your flesh can completely ruin in mere seconds what took you many years to build. Before you send that angry text, before you speak that sharp word, before you make that permanent decision, pause. Even if you pause for just 30 seconds to breathe and pray. That small, hidden act destroys human pride with far more efficiency than any New Year resolution you have ever made. The third habit is to fast to train your physical body. There is a fascinating detail about the prophet Daniel that almost nobody mentions. When he first arrived in the city of Babylon, he was young, highly intelligent, and had every door of opportunity wide open. The king himself desired that Daniel eat directly from his own royal table. It was the absolutely perfect opportunity to yield, to adapt, and to survive without causing any conflicts. And yet, Daniel resolutely said no to the king. He did not refuse because the food was physically poisonous. He refused because he understood something that very few people today want to hear. If your body dominates you in the smallest physical desires, it will dominate you in the massive ones as well. Daniel chapter 1 verse 8 says that he purposed in his heart not to defile himself. Long before the blazing furnace arrived, long before the lions came, he had already trained his body to obey. That is exactly what the spiritual discipline of fasting does for a believer. It is not a form of religious punishment to earn favor. It is rigorous spiritual training for your soul. It is looking at your physical body and saying, "You do not rule over me here." When you fast, you are not merely resisting the sensation of hunger. You are actively practicing saying no to everything that your flesh demands with absolute urgency. And that spiritual muscle, once fully developed, completely changes how you respond to temptation. It gives you strength when the temptation is not for food, but for something you know will destroy your life. But wait, there is something incredibly critical that you need to hear before we continue. These habits are not a checklist of rigid rituals designed to impress God. They are the exact path that He Himself designed so you can regain dominion over your own life. There is a massive difference between doing these things to earn something from God and doing them because you know that without them, the flesh wins. Keep listening with that vital difference clear in your mind. The fourth habit is to obey even when you do not understand. It sounds strange to our modern ears, but total obedience might be the most radical act a human being can do today. We live in a culture that completely glorifies following your own personal instincts. The world tells you to do whatever you feel, because you supposedly know what is best for yourself. And meanwhile, Jeremiah chapter 17 verse 9 states that the heart is deceitful above all things. Here lies the great contradiction that so few people are willing to face. People believe that obeying God limits their freedom, when in reality, it is exactly the opposite. Every single time you say yes to God, when everything inside you desperately wants to say no, you are killing something carnal. You are tearing up the contract that your flesh has signed with sin. That contract was signed through old habits, through repeated bad decisions, and through the phrase, "just this once," which became a permanent lifestyle. God does not demand this for meaningless suffering. It is a necessary spiritual surgery, and the great physician knows exactly what he is cutting away. Repeated, faithful obedience completely reconstructs who you are from the inside out. It does not make you a slave to a system. It makes you truly free, because there is a vast difference between doing whatever you happen to feel and being capable of doing what you actually decide to do. When was the last time your conscious decision won a victory over your sudden emotional impulse? That exact distance between what you feel and what you choose is the precise space where the Holy Spirit grows within you. The fifth habit is to worship God instead of complaining. In Acts chapter 16, verse 25, Paul and Silas are sitting deep inside a dark prison cell. Their bodies are covered in open, bleeding wounds from being beaten. They are surrounded by total darkness, with absolutely no idea what will happen to them the next day. And instead of complaining about their miserable circumstances, they sing hymns of praise. This is not a superficial faith meant for a pretty postcard. This was a highly strategic, spiritual decision. Complaining automatically gives power to your problem. Worship, on the other hand, gives all the power back to God. And that shift changes absolutely everything around you. It changes things not just in your spirit, but in ways you can physically feel in your body, your thoughts, and your perception of reality. But there is something even deeper happening here. Complaining directly feeds the flesh, feeds your wounded pride, feeds a victim mentality, and feeds bitterness. That bitterness accumulates silently week after week without you even noticing it, until one day you wake up and you no longer know where that heavy weight in your soul is coming from. Worship, conversely, completely crucifies all of that negativity. Worship looks directly at the mountain and says, "You are not the center of my story." Stand aside for a moment. How many times this week did you genuinely worship God for something specific He did? And how many times did you complain about what went wrong? The honest answer to that question tells you exactly what is occupying the throne of your life right now. The sixth habit is to remove yourself from environments that feed sin. Picture this specific scene in your mind. An individual who has been completely sober for months decides to start spending their evenings in the exact same bar as before. They tell themselves they are only doing it to prove they finally have total control over their addiction. They say they just want to be around their old friends. They promise themselves they will only drink water. What do you honestly think is going to happen to that person? We are consistently far too optimistic about our own human strength, and we are dangerously naive about the overwhelming power of our environment. An environment is never spiritually neutral. Every single space you frequent has an invisible spiritual culture attached to it. And that culture, little by little, slowly shapes what you consider to be normal behavior. It shapes what you desire without you even realizing it. It shapes what you tolerate today that would have made you incredibly uncomfortable in the past. The Bible, in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18, does not tell you to stand and resist. It explicitly commands you to flee. There are certain sins that you can never defeat by fighting them at close range. You defeat them by running as far away as possible. There are environments that you do not leave victorious by staying to fight. You leave them victorious by walking out the door. If there is a physical place, a digital screen, a social group, or a situation that you know feeds the exact thing you want to destroy, act. The most deeply spiritual decision you can make today is not to pray harder while staying inside that environment. The most spiritual decision is to pack up and leave immediately. That is not a sign of cowardice. That is the highest form of wisdom, protecting what God is actively constructing inside your heart. Lord, today I humbly recognize that there are habits in my life that have fed my flesh far more than my spirit. This did not happen out of pure malice, but out of simple carelessness, routine, and comfort. It happened because I foolishly believed I could handle on my own what only you have the power to transform. Today, I ask you for the radical courage to choose the people around me much better. Give me the grace to pause completely before I react in anger or pride. Give me the strength to say no to the desires that attempt to dominate my life. Help me to worship you with all my heart, even when my external situation does not change at all. May these 6 holy habits never become a legalistic list of religious rules. Instead, let them be the beautiful path where you lead me back to my true self. Lead me to the exact version of me that you intentionally designed before the flesh took control of my life. Let that transformation begin today with just one single different decision. Amen. If this message reached your heart today, please write in the comments section below. Write the words, "Today I choose the Spirit." Do not write it as a mere formula, but as a bold declaration of what is beginning to change inside you from this very moment. Do you know someone who is currently struggling with habits that are completely draining them from the inside out? Please take a moment to share this video with them right now. It could easily be the exact word of encouragement that person desperately needs to hear today. And if you desire more deep reflections, just like this one, make sure to stay right here and subscribe to the channel. Every single week, I bring a direct, unfiltered message that goes straight to the heart of the matter. Thank you for watching. And until next time, may your spirit always be infinitely stronger than your excuses.